Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we're going to be taking a little bit of a look at a new Macgargo. This was revealed on the Japanese website today. Our translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet, who we all know by now is a rather lovely man. And we got a good Macgargo at the moment. We'll get there in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with this Macgargo first. So we've got 120 HP, which is not the amount of HP we really want, because it means that something like a Buzzwole doing 120 will get a one-hit KO. We want 130, not 120, boo, hiss, etc. You can't win them all. We've got a retreat cost of 3, which again is just a little bit too low for stuff like buff padding, which is kind of annoying. Weakness to water is honestly alright at the moment. There are water decks running around trying to counter stuff like Reshiram and Charizard, but water decks just aren't seeing a huge amount of play, so fingers crossed on that one. And being a fire Pokemon's really good right now. You've got Welder to accelerate energy while drawing cards. You've got Fire Crystal to grab some energy from your discard pile. You've got Giant Half, which is going to allow you to... Well, it's Viridian Forest, but you grab 2 fire energy rather than 1 any basic energy. You got Fiery Flint to grab energy out of your deck, and you've got Heat Factory Prism Star, which will allow you to draw 3 cards if you discard a fire energy from your hand. Yeah, pretty good right now, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty good time to be a fire Pokemon. Not to mention weakness on grass Pokemon like Celebi and Venusaur, as well as your metal Pokemon like Lucario and Melmetal. Yep. Double weakness all the way across the sky. So, basics here, looking pretty good, we like it. But what does it do? Well, the first attack for 1 fire energy, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Cool. Just mills 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. It is a decent milling option. The question is it a good enough milling option? Do we have better milling options? Are there cards we'd rather play instead? And unfortunately, the answer might be yes. So, in terms of milling at the moment, we don't have an amazing milling deck, but I think the best we've got so far is Rhydon. Now, Rhydon came out in Unbroken Bonds, and it's got an attack for 2 colorless energy. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. If you play Giovanni's Exile from your hand during this turn, discard the top 5 cards instead. Cool. Discarding 5 cards is good. But you see, that's not the entire story. Because what Giovanni's Exile does is it's a supporter card that lets you discard up to 2 bench Pokemon with no damage counters on, and all cards attached to them. But that's not the whole story, because we also got a Diglett in Unbroken Bonds, and Diglett says if you discard this Pokemon with the effect of Giovanni's Exile, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. So the plan here is very simple. Get a couple Diglett on the bench, discard them with Giovanni's Exile, and then use Rhydon, and you're essentially discarding the top 7 cards of your opponent's deck in a single turn. And yes, discarding 7 cards is better than discarding 2. I'm probably not going to gain very much if I try arguing that with you lovely ladies and gentlemen. So, what's the point of Macgargo then? And the point is, it's another option. You see, one of the things about Rhydon is that it takes 2 energy to attack, and it's a stage 1. It's not the slowest Pokemon ever, but it's also not the fastest. Now, Macgargo's also a stage 1, but it attacks for a single energy. And it attacks for a fire energy. So now, all of a sudden, we don't just go, oh, well, let's just go Rhydon. We just fit Macgargo into a Rhydon deck. And now, all of a sudden, you've got another option. Because remember, on a turn where you've not used Giovanni's Exile, Rhydon's only discarding the top card of your opponent's deck. Whereas Macgargo's discarding 2. So it means that on the turns where you're not able to use Giovanni's Exile, you've still got a decent option. And you can only put 4 Giovannis in your deck, and yeah, you can use Power Pad to recover them, but sooner or later you're going to need to play something like a Cynthia just to draw some cards and get yourself set up. Yes, on a turn where you've used Giovanni's Exile, Rhydon is way better than Maccargo. But there will be turns where you can't use Giovanni's Exile. So it doesn't matter how much better it is, because it's irrelevant, because you can't use it. You're only discarding 1 card from the top of your opponent's deck, and all of a sudden Maccargo becomes the better option. But also you're using fire energy here, so use Welder. And now you've got the fire energy for Maccargo, and you've got the Welder, which can put 2 energy onto Rhydon in one go while drawing 3 cards. It's a good way to accelerate the energy to Rhydon, though of course, any turn you're using Welder, you're not using Giovanni's. So you would attach for the turn to Maccargo, use Welder onto Rhydon, and then next turn you use Giovanni's Exile and attack with Rhydon. That's why you use it. Not to mention the fact that we've also got the other Maccargo, the one from Celestial Storm, which lets you search your deck for any 1 card and put it on top of your deck, and oh look, now you're going to draw it when you play that Welder. It means your deck is going to be inherently more consistent. So you may well want to play the Maccargo from Celestial Storm for a bit of consistency, making this new Maccargo just a single card tech. And at this stage I should mention Devolution Spray Z. It's not the best option, because it shuffles a Pokemon into your deck rather than puts them into your hand, but it means you can essentially devolve your Maccargo into a Slugma, so you can do the searching, and then when you're ready, you can swap it for a Miller. Or you can do the milling, and then when you're ready, swap it for a Searcher. Either way, it works all right. And the other advantage of Maccargo is, it's a better attacker. Now it does 80 damage for 1 fire energy, 1 colorless energy, and you have to discard an energy attached to this Pokemon. It's alright, it's not brilliant, but it's alright. You can pay the cost using 1 Welder, which is lovely. And yes, I know it does actually do 10 less damage than Rhydon, fine. But also it's for half the energy cost, which I think is pretty gosh darn significant. Now the thing is, you're not doing a huge amount of damage here. 80 damage isn't loads. It will get something like Jirachi, and it will get evolving Pokemon, even your 70 HP like Poipole. But you're not getting stuff like Zapdos, let alone stuff like the non-GX Blacephalon. And as for GXs, I mean, you're not even 2-hit KOing the GX Blacephalon. And even with weakness, you're not all that close. I mean, against a Celebi and Venusaur, you're 2-hit KOing. Lucario and Melmetal, 2-hit KOing. And that's if they're not using something like Metal Frying Pan to take away their weakness. You're not doing much damage with this attack, I'll be honest with you. This is not a greatly damaging attack. But let's be honest with you, right? This isn't an attacker. You're not using this to try and smash and win the game with attacks. This is a milling card. So having a little bit of extra attack is kind of cool. Now, speaking of milling, there is 1 Maccargo I've not mentioned yet, and it is Maccargo GX. 1 fire energy, discard the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. Clearly, that's your GX attack, but we don't have another GX attack we're looking to use for Maccargo or for Rhydon, so we're fine. In this kind of milling deck, that's phenomenal, and I love it. Not to mention the fact that you've got the ability Crushing Charge. Once during your turn, you may discard the top card of your deck. If it's a basic energy card, attach it to one of your Pokemon. So you can potentially use that, especially in conjunction with the other Maccargo, to know you've got a fire energy on top of your deck. You can potentially use that to get the second energy on Rhydon and turn it into a pseudo single energy attacker. There is a lot to like about this Maccargo. The main attack we're actually attacking is fine, it's a bit meh. But the milling is pretty good. It's not the best milling we've got, but it's a good backup miller. And with the other 2 Maccargo with whom you can combine it, you're starting to really see a lot of help going on here. I am a big fan of this Maccargo, but only in a milling deck. And as I kind of started the video with, I don't think it's good enough to be a milling deck on its own. As a backup with his Slugfire friends, however, I like it very much indeed. Let's give it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I like it as a miller, and I would love to see some milling decks come back. But I'd like to know what you think about milling decks generally and Slugma specifically, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.